Over the course of many years of traveling back and forth across the country and talking with family caregivers, one of the themes that kept coming up, unsolicited, was the role that the family dog played in the care team. And that was for not only the people who were ill, but also the caregivers themselves. And the dogs played many roles, in the family and in caregiving.
As we get older, there are lots of difficult decisions we need to make. And one of them is what happens to our canine companion if we are unable to take care of them for whatever reason. Well, today on NSK9, we're talking with Elderdog Canada, an organization that understands that dilemma.
Of course, I had dogs of my own, and one of those dogs, Tattoo, who is now deceased, he and I volunteered with a wonderful organization called Therapeutic Paws of Canada. And we spent a lot of time in long-term care facilities, visiting people in those facilities. And shortly after we started, Tattoo, I guess one time we visited in a palliative care unit of the facility that we were spending time in, and Tattoo was just magic in that palliative care facility. So from then on, that became where we spent our time. Animal-assisted therapy, it's really about the dog, and the companion is just there to escort, really. So in that role, I was able to kind of stand back and watch Tattoo at work. And in that role and in my kind of observational position, I was able to learn a lot about what dogs meant at end of life to people who were at that stage, but also to the families who were dealing with a very emotionally challenging time. And so, Tattoo was able to provide comfort in ways that humans couldn't. He knew intuitively what it was that person needed, even if that person wasn't able to speak, or was able, because dogs have such a keen sense of observation, he was able to kind of tune in to what people were saying, even if they weren't able to verbally communicate. What really pushed Elderdog forward was, as often is the case, was a personal experience. And that was with my brother, who passed away very suddenly of a heart attack. And he was living with his old chocolate lab named Mr. Brown, and Mr. Brown had terminal cancer, and he was with my brother when my brother died. And when he died, Mr. Brown obviously went through a period of stress and grief and so on. And then he came to live with me and my dogs, and he lived with me in a pretty good lifestyle until he died a couple of years later. But while he was with me, he again taught me a lot about older dogs, and he really got me thinking about, what happens to those old dogs when they lose a companion, and especially dogs who are ill. People don't line up at shelters for ill dogs. Often, if a family is not able to take the dog, they will go to a vet for euthanization. or they'll live out their days in a shelter which is the least good place for an old dog. I get emotional just thinking about that now. So, you know, it was this set of experiences that made me think about, you know, the importance of attending to the need for older people to have their canine companions and for older dogs to live out their lives with dignity and respect.
This is totally volunteer run and is a charity.
100% volunteer run, and that is also unique. You know, there are some, for example, some private home care agencies who will, or private agencies and businesses who will go in and walk dogs and so on, but that's, you know, for pay for service. And but Elderdog is no fees and 100% volunteer run, and we are a registered charity. Elderdog was born, and it does have that strong research base and continues to have that base, and it's focused on senior people and helping them keep their canine companions, and also on older dogs and helping them to live out their lives as their lives should be lived out.
Because sometimes it's not just death, is it? It's somebody's moving into a senior's home that can't take dogs, or there's lots of different situations where somebody has a dog and can't keep it.
That's right, and even though it's not death, it's like death for people who have to give up their companions. You know, their companions of, you know, 12, 13, 14 years. And, you know, if they're having to relocate, it could be because they've lost a partner or spouse and they're no longer able to maintain the family home. They need to downsize. So they're losing their family home. They've lost a partner, a spouse. And now if they're relocating and they have to give up their other beloved companion, you know, their dog. And so it is like a death. And we get calls at Elderdog on a daily basis. And they're very tearful calls when somebody has to give up their companion.
Although it's not as complex as a human's ability to sense one another's emotions, dogs can actually use a variety of their senses to pick up and be able to distinguish between positive and negative behaviors. Dogs are able to use their ears, so auditory cues, as well as their vision to look at our facial expressions, and even a sense of smell to not only be able to sense, but be able to differentiate whether a human is happy or playful versus angry or aggressive.
Pop. Elderdog is really about that, fostering that relationship between older adults and older dogs in many different ways. We're a very unique organization. We're not a rescue, and we're not a primarily senior serving organization only. We work at the intersection of the human-animal bond, particularly for seniors and for senior people and senior dogs. And there is no other organization that works exactly that way. And so the need is certainly recognized across the country and elsewhere. And so I think that has led to our growth. I haven't encountered anyone, either in person or virtually, who has been introduced to Elderdog, what we stand for, what we do, and not said, this is such a perfect organization.
Oh dear. And I heard about Elderdog from the veterinarians. And I called them, talked to them. Next thing you know, I had a dog.
And so this is Chewy.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about Chewy.
Well, Chewy came to me 3 years ago. Her owner, unfortunately, has Alzheimer's. So she couldn't keep her anymore. And apparently there wasn't anybody in the family that wanted her because she was an old dog. And Lynn called me and told me about her, and I said, well, bring her over and we'll see how we get along. So we took to each other right away, so I said, okay, I'll keep her.
And Chewy is not your first adopted dog through Elderdog.
No, she's my third.
So tell me about the other dogs.
Well,
They're all older dogs, I guess.
they're all older dogs. The first one I had him for about 1.5 years. The second one I only had for about 3 months. So I never had a chance to get too attached to him. And this one I had for 3 years. But it's natural for me to have a dog. I don't know. We're able to communicate. This one especially has caught on to all my habits and my traits.
Dogs, as many other animals, have complex emotional states, and I think they're able to, because of both their complexity and their simplicity, their pared down world in some sense, they're able to tune into their emotions and to tune into the emotions of others in ways that, we overlook.
What is it about a dog that provides that, I guess, companionship, that sort of an unconditional companionship?
You said the word, unconditional love. It doesn't matter who you are, what you have or don't have. They love you no matter what. That's deep, don't you think? That an animal can give you that kind of love. And when you're old and alone, it's even greater.
So it's a bit different adopting an older dog, isn't it?
It is. The one thing about it that I like is that you get attached, you form a bond, but it's not like the bond you form from puppyhood. Mm-hmm. And it's much easier to let go because you know death is coming anyway. So you're sort of resigned to it when you first adopt them. So it hurts, but not as harshly. Okay. You know what I mean?
So it's a different kind of grief.
Yeah. It's a sadness. It's not that heavy grief of losing a real close loved one, if you know what I mean. Because when you have a puppy for 12, 15 years, you get pretty close to them. Mm-hmm.
But in the same way, you become close to Chewy and
we're close. There's a deep friendship. Mm-hmm. You know? It's hard to explain. Well, think of it. If you're old and alone, and you have no one, what would that feel like? Instead of having someone out there who cares enough about you to give you quality of life at the end. You know, I feel for animals more than I feel for humans, because humans have all the advantages. So I want to give them what they deserve. They've been faithful all their lives. They've given joy. They've given companionship. Why shouldn't they have a good end of life?
When we interviewed Cecile, one of the things she mentioned is she's had quite a few dogs through the foster program who, so she's living this grief of a dog passing away all the time because she's fostering these dogs. That seems a bit unique in terms of what Elderdog is doing.
Yeah, that is something that people take on.
It takes a lot of compassion to do that.
It absolutely does. And some people can't do it. Some people, will say quite honestly that an older dog, they know that their time together is short, and they can't go through that because, as you know, you become attached so quickly. And when you have a puppy, you look forward to a long life together. When you adopt an older dog, maybe a year or two, a few years, and so that's hard. But there are those, and fortunately we have many of those people who are able to see that it's really living in the moment, and it's not so much about them as it is about providing a loving home for a dog when that dog is most in need. And then the other thing we hear is that from older adults, they say, I want a dog to grow old with, and I don't know how, what's going to happen to me. I don't know how long I'm going to be around. So I don't want to live out my life without a dog. And so they go into this new relationship knowing that the dog has only a few short years, but those are going to be good years for both of them.
Dogs do not go through menopause. So menopause is really defined as a cessation of monthly cycles. But dogs don't have monthly cycles. They go into heat approximately every 6 months. And they're going to continue to do that as they get older. But what will happen is they become geriatric, those cycles become more erratic, and in fact, they become more dangerous. So one of the big problems I run into is infections in the uterus in geriatric dogs that haven't been spayed, and those dogs require emergency surgery.
She seems really friendly and calm.
She is.
Are they all like that? Calm?
Yes. Inside they are.
So this is Mr. Brown that you were talking about?
This is Mr. Brown, yes. Yes, with his beautiful white muzzle.
So these are dogs that you have had?
Yeah, these are my dog. This is this, and this is Tattoo, and he's the dog I mentioned. We visited together in palliative care. And here's Mr. Brown again. And this is another dog, Jetsam, who came to us when he was returned because he was a big bad boy. and so all of the dogs I've had and I currently have come to me with issues of various kinds, whether it's health, age, behavior, whatever. And so these dogs have all passed on, and they've left behind lots of love and lessons that I've learned from spending time with them.
This is very important to you, isn't it? Why is it so important? Because it could be kids or seniors or rabbits, but it's dogs.
It's dogs. Yeah, well, I think there's a special relationship that one develops with a dog that is different from relationships that we develop with humans. There's a sense of loyalty and unabashed love and lack of inhibition, and many of the qualities that I think that we can aspire to, I think are present in and are embodied in dogs. And so for me, one of my favorite things to do is to stand back and watch dogs and watch what they do and watch what they tell us and watch how they play and watch their various qualities and pay attention to the kind of love that they give and the empathy that they're able to offer and the patience that they can exhibit. And yeah, I guess I'm a teacher and a learner, so and a researcher. So learning is something that I really enjoy, and dogs just provide such an opportunity for us to learn. I find being with dogs is a very humbling experience, and it also kind of slows us down and invites us, and sometimes it's not so successful, but it invites us to live in the moment in ways that we're not so good at doing anymore in our very busy lives. Because my brother had passed away, it was such a shock, and kind of, you encounter your own mortality, and you think, okay, it's time to do something to make a difference. And being a university professor and having a position of privilege, and also doing research that we think really matters, but realizing that it really probably doesn't matter to the people who it needs to matter for. I thought, well, this is the opportunity to make a difference.
Visit us online to tell us your dog stories for possible inclusion in future episodes. And don't forget to share photos of your canine friends on social media with the hashtag NSK9.
Okay. I think one of the things that I've learned about spending time with and watching dogs and researching dogs too, is that the keenness of their sense of observation is, or their ability to observe is so far beyond that which we humans are able to do. And so being such keen observers, they pick up cues that we don't even know we give. And they're very subtle and they're very nuanced. And so I think that helps them to make those decisions and make those assessments of who is needed and who is maybe not a friend and who is absolutely wanting the presence of a dog.
It's winter in Nova Scotia, but that doesn't mean people are staying inside with their dogs. Whether with skis, bat bikes, sleds, or just on foot, the dog community is out mushing, and NSK9 is along for the ride.
I have a love-hate relationship with winter. I hate being cold. I actually despise it. But I love how beautiful it is in winter. So even as a kid, I would get all bundled up and I'd be the one out there building the snow fort and like living in my snow fort. My mom would be like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I got a book in my snow fort," because it was warm in a snow fort, right? So yeah, I love doing the sports, but I hate the cold aspect. But it's just, like, I mean, look at this park. It's gorgeous in here. Like when you can get out on the trail after a fresh snowfall, it's just amazing. It's you, your dogs, the bells are usually going, but it's quiet other than that.
It's kind of Christmas.
And yeah, exactly. It's my own version of a sled ride.